back to Kids in the Kitchen with the Halifax Public Libraries. I'm Claire Gallant, and I am so happy to be back with you. Did you have fun making blueberry pancakes and strawberry apple salsa with Emily last week? I hope you did. Now today we're going to make a few more really delicious things, and I'm pretty excited because I'm here with Cash and Polly. Back again to make some more delicious food with you. So today we're going to make pizza dough and pizza sauce, and we're going to make some lemonade to go with it. And we're going to do all of it right here, right now. So Polly was holding this ingredient, which we're going to start with, and Cash was holding this ingredient before we started filming. And we were talking about these ingredients. We're going to make a pizza sauce from scratch, which means we're going to do all the ingredients ourselves and cook it on the stove. And that's going to be your tomato sauce for your pizza. And then we're going to make the dough, and we're going to let it rise, and then we're going to bake the pizza and put toppings on and bake it. And while it's baking, we'll make the lemonade. So we'll show you how to do all this, and you've got the recipe right there in front of you. So we're going to start with the sauce, and the sauce starts with a chopped onion and 3 cloves of chopped garlic, which is right here. And Cash, you remember what this is called?
Garlic head?
Yeah, a head of garlic. So that's a full head, and the little cloves are the small pieces inside, and we pulled those off and we chopped them up.
And these are chopped up.
Exactly, that's right. And then this is 1 onion, and Polly's digging into the skin there, and it's fun to peel sometimes. And then I already cut it up. So the cutting up the onion and the garlic is a job you can ask your grown-up to help with. You can chop, 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 chop finely. And now, like I said when we made our blueberry lemon muffins last time, the very first thing you want to do if you're going to make some pizza dough or pizza sauce and you're going to cook a pizza is you want to preheat your oven. So I've already done that, and that's another thing you can get your grown-up to help with. So I'm going to grab our pot for our sauce, which is right here. It's right here, and it's not hot yet. So I took it off the oven, off the burner, but the burner's not on. So we're going to start by adding some, we're going to actually add the olive oil, which is right here. So here, Cash, if you want to, can you take the lid off that olive oil? And of course, the other thing you do before you ever start cooking, which we already did, is you all wash your hands and make sure everything's all clean. And I got all my ingredients and laid them all out. You just have to pull it off, my love. You just sort of pull it off the top. It's a little confusing. Whoops. Here. I think it just came apart a little bit, but that's okay. There we go. Sometimes these things happen, and we still got it off. So why don't you pour a little bit of olive oil into the pot? You just pour, and I'll tell you when to stop. Pour it in. So we're using 3 tablespoons of olive oil. There we go, for this sauce. And then, Polly, why don't you dump in this chopped up onion? See, this isn't hot yet. I'm just dumping all the ingredients in, and then we're going to turn on the heat, which is something to get your grown-up to help with. Very good. Let's put the rest of that in. This is 1 large onion, chopped up finely, with a nice big knife, nice and finely chopped. And let's put the garlic in.
Onion.
That's right. What do you put the garlic in, Cash? Dump it all in. And these smell really wonderful and strong. And when they cook, they get all sweet. So the spicy, strong onion and garlic get nice and sweet. Let's pull it out with your fingers. Do you want to do that? So this is going to get cooking on the stove, and while it gets cooking, we're going to pull some herbs. We're going to use a little bit of fresh herbs. So we're going to turn on the burner, and that's again something you can get your adult to help with.
So what
about medium high, and I'm going to just leave it there. Okay, so Cash is picking some rosemary. This is the name of this herb. Want to give it a sniff?
And it smells really good. You want to smell?
You smell your rosemary, and I bet it smells just as good as this one, because this one smells amazing. And we don't need very much, like I said. I'm going to chop these up in really tiny pieces. Oh, I just heard something on the stove. I think our pizza sauce, our onion and garlic and olive oil are starting to sizzle because they're cooking, which is great.
And it's okay if you accidentally get a little bit of these in like another bowl. See, like what I just did. So
that's fine. I'm going to chop these up, and that's a task
you're always going to clean this up after.
You can get your grown-up to do for you. So I'm going to take a few of these and cut them small.
So as we said, not too many. So maybe I could do all of mine, but maybe Cash shouldn't, because his is way bigger.
So we're actually probably have enough now, guys.
So
Polly, do you want to show the camera this? This is the size that you just hold it this way
See,
so the
you
camera
see
can
that?
see.
you can cut it.
We don't want to put in too
We
many,
don't
so
wanna
it's
do
just
that.
all this.
You can maybe cut it a little, but no bigger than
You don't
that.
want
That's
to put
right.
in too.
So it's pretty tiny.
So you always have to make it like a bit like this.
And this is fun to
See,
pull.
it's like a little bit of crumbs.
Yeah. So we're only going to use, it's about sort of a couple of teaspoons of chopped rosemary. I'm going to add it
And
to the
see?
onions and garlic.
We have this here.
That's olive
lemon
oil.
juice and stuff like this.
So I'm just giving this sauce a stir, and then the rosemary is going to start to cook too. So Polly's got her olive oil for brushing the crust of the dough for when we do that part of it.
Yep.
Now we're going to add the tomatoes, the crushed tomatoes. So this is a can that you'll have in front of you too. I'm going to open it up with a can opener. I'm just going to put it in with our sauce, which I can hear sizzling even more, which is wonderful. So the onions and garlic are cooking away on the stove, and they're getting sweeter because they're getting darker colored, which means they're getting more flavorful and sweeter in the pan. And you can use all your senses, like we said in our first episode, but you can use all your senses when you're cooking. You can hear when things are cooking the way you want them to, and then you can smell it. Can you try some? I guess so. Here, not with your fingers, but we'll try a little tiny taste with the spoon. What do you think? Do you want some, Cash? See what it's like plain. It's also important to taste your ingredients if you can. Of course, not raw eggs or anything unsafe. You like it? This is
And
just
it's really good.
the plain tomatoes. And then so we're adding onions and garlic and salt and this delicious rosemary.
It's just mashed tomatoes. Nothing to worry about.
And we're going to use
Try it.
olive oil. We're going to use a little bit of salt
And
too.
it smells better than tastes. Plain.
We're going to use half a teaspoon of salt. Cash, would you measure half a teaspoon of salt, and then we'll add the salt and the tomatoes into the sauce. You can pour the salt into the garlic cup there. And that's almost everything we're going to add to the tomato sauce before we get.
Sorry.
That's okay. So that's why we measure over something. You do that, and then instead of putting it in the same
I thought
thing,
you meant like we were gonna
Pour it in here.
here.
you pour it in there, and then
And
we'll pour
these are
this
the
into
two
the
dirty
pot.
spoons.
That's
I
right.
just
Let's put
finished
them over there.
patches up because he didn't want to finish it, I bet.
Okay, you put those over there, Polly. Thank you. That's perfect.
So
And-
you should always have a spot ready for your dirty dishes.
Absolutely. I'm going to add the tomatoes and the salt to the sauce now. I'm going to stir them in. It's going to be a little bit spattery. You're right, Polly. And I'm going to turn the heat down just a bit. So sort of medium high. And then that's going to cook away. There we go. While we do our dough. Okay, it's time for dough. So we have warm water and yeast. Cash, it's time for the yeast, buddy. So let's get the yeast going. So let's open up the yeast packet and measure it out, okay, Cash?
And in a couple minutes, we're going to add the salt.
So here, Cash, why don't we pour the yeast? So this is instant yeast. So that's what it's quick rise or instant. Let's pour it all into here. It'll be easier to measure from there. So this is a packet that's probably 2 1/4 teaspoons. We're going to use 1 1/4 teaspoons. This is a whole cup of warm water. We actually want only a half a cup. So why don't you pour in half a cup into this bowl? Just half of that. All right, stop there. We'll see how much that is. Yeah, I would say that's about half. So for this recipe, for 1 medium-sized pizza, it's a half a cup of warm water and 1 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast. They go in the bowl first. And so the yeast starts to work its magic, or its science, as the case may be. And the yeast will start to react with the water. And then that's what's going to make our pizza rise. We did 1 teaspoon of yeast. Now we're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon. So Cassius is 1/4 teaspoon here. And he's going to put it in with the 1 teaspoonful.
This is what it looks like.
Yep. And we're going to just let it start to react with the water. And that's good, buddy.
The water is a
There you
bit
go.
stronger than the yeast.
Let's get it in. Sprinkle it in. So that has to sit for a few minutes just so that the yeast reacts with the water. And in the meantime, we'll measure the flour. So Polly, we need 1 1/2 cups of flour. So this is, we're taking, we had a bowl of flour. I poured some flour from our flour bag into a bowl. And Polly's just scooping it into a cup. Yep, yeah, that's good. And then, you know what we can do? Let's use a flat tool and scrape it off like this. So we know we have exactly, let's use the flat part of it like that. Yeah, exactly, then we know. Yes, you see how it's nice and flat, so you want your cup of flour to be full and flat. And then you know you have the right amount. Now let's not use the spoon, because if you use the spoon, you might get not quite enough. There, and now let's put it into this bowl. So this recipe uses 1.5 cups of flour. Make sure you get it all in. Very good. And then we'll make half of this is the next amount. So we have 1, and then we have a half. So let's make it full up to half. And for this one, because we're using the same cup measure, we're not going to be able to make it flat, but that's okay. So there we go. That's a half a cup. So it's 1.5 cups, and then we can do the salt, okay? So Polly's going to use these to measure the salt. 1 teaspoon of salt, okay, my love? Here we go. So again, just like the 1¼ teaspoons of yeast, we're using the teaspoon measure. I can hear a sauce bubbling on the stove too. Right, so we're going to scrape it off a little bit, and there we go. One flat, yes, 1 full and flat teaspoon of salt goes in with the flour. Very good. So now the yeast has sat long enough, and we're going to put the dough together, which is really exciting.
Can I mix this?
You can blend it together very gently so it all stays in that shallow bowl. Very careful.
Because
Yep.
remember,
Can I blend?
this is just flour and salt.
Yep. Why don't you blend them in together? Yeah, that's flour and salt. Let's get it into the big bowl. So Cash, you pour it. We're going to pour it in with the yeast and the water. Pour it all in, Cash. Here, let's turn it around so the audience can see. There we go. You scrape it all in. In it goes. Do you want to do this? You put your spoon in. Yep.
Now can I mix?
Let's give Cash a turn to mix here, and then you can mix too. And we're going to get our hands in there and make it into a ball of dough. So here's the dough before we get our hands in to mix it around. It's still a little bit shaggy and a little bit messy looking. We're going to make it look all smooth, and then we're going to let it rise. And I'm just going to finish saying what about letting it rise, because I turned on the oven for a couple of minutes at really low temperature. So I turned it on to 225, and we're going to bake it at a much hotter temperature. But 225, turned it off. So the oven is a little warm, but not so warm that it would kill your yeast, because sometimes hot temperatures really kill yeast. But basically, we're going to let it rise in a really warm spot, and that spot I've chosen is a little bit of a warm oven. This is called kneading your dough, and this is just very similar to bread dough. Here, let's give Polly a turn to knead it.
So
Okay.
if you want to
See,
watch,
that's what you should
if
do.
you want to watch these episodes every day, then it's fine.
Polly, do you want a turn?
Except if we don't make them.
No, like,
Okay.
yeah. So that's always what you should do. Like if someone wants a turn, like what I just did, you should let them have a turn. If your parent says you can't.
So Polly, you want to hold up this dough? It's changed a bit. It's looking a much smoother dough than a couple of minutes ago when we just started to knead it. There it is. Now it doesn't look like very much, but it's going to rise. Remember, it's got quite a bit of yeast in it. It's going to get puffy and big once we put it in the warm, turned off oven. So that's another job that your grown-up can do for you. We're going to keep it in one big piece. Okay, let's keep it in one piece. Okay, you can let it fall. We're going to put it in here, Polly. Now, yeah, so we kneaded it so much that it's getting a little sticky, but that's okay. Maybe Polly's going to go wash her hands. You know what other thing we're going to do is put a little oil in the bowl. So actually, why don't we use this bowl? Cash, will you put a little oil in here? Drizzle a little bit of oil. We're going to rub it around so that when the dough rises, it doesn't stick. Just a little bit. That's good. Let's rub it around. And then the bowl, the dough won't stick to the bowl when it rises up. Great. Okay, so here's our lovely. Do you want a towel for your hands? Here's our oiled bowl. Here's the pizza dough, and we're going to turn it all around.
You have towels with you.
Towels are good.
Right. Because you.
Okay. Yes, you hold the towel there, my love. I'm going to put this in to let it rise, and then we'll check on our sauce.
Really nice.
There we go.
Let's see what our sauce looks like. Woo.
Let's see.
Okay, that's rising. Now, here's the sauce. I think our sauce is ready for its final ingredient, which is
The butter.
the butter. So, the butter is what really makes it, because the tomatoes have a taste that's something called acidic, and the butter is sort of sweet and fatty, and it balances with the tomatoes really well. You know what? The sauce is super hot, so I'm going to take this over to the stove myself and put it in, so that's
What is
safer. It's butter.
Butter.
And so the butter, if you can see, here's the sauce. The butter is going to melt.
Okay.
So I'm stirring this butter
So
into the
you
sauce.
see the butter melting. It's a little bit littler than it was.
Exactly. Yep. And this sauce is almost ready.
And it's okay if in the first episode if you're making episodes like these, you're a little bit embarrassed to do it because I felt like that at the first time, but then I started to do them and I got I felt cool. So
Yeah, me too.
So and then I'm not embarrassed anymore to talk like this.
So I said that we were going to make our lemonade while our pizza baked. But actually, we're going to make lemonade now while our dough rises. And then after we'll bake our pizza and then we'll show it to you and we'll eat it. So we're going to make a lemonade with fresh lemon juice and honey and ice, and it's going to be super, super tasty.
Yeah.
So here's the fresh lemon juice, and I've already juiced, this is 8 lemons, and so I've already juiced most of them, but I'm going to get these guys to each do a little bit of lemon juice right here.
So this is just plain lemon juice.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
you just have to squeeze some lemons.
That's right. So we're going to squeeze 2 more, so just 2 more halves. So here's those ones I've already done. So here's one for you, here's one for you. Now 1 second, we're not going to do them right into here because then we would have seeds. So let's do them into a separate bowl, like this
With a
one right
sieve.
here. Yeah. Well, we don't need to use a sieve because what we're going to do is we're going to use our fingers to pull out the seeds. So you can take a spoon and you can stick it in your lemon and you can squeeze it all the way around the spoon, just like that, and just go rah. And if it's a bit too tough for you, if your hands are a little bit small, then you can ask your adult that's with you to do this job. Out comes all the juice. Yum, yum, yum. So we're finishing up squeezing our lemon juice, and we're going to put some water and some honey in this pot. Polly, will you pour some of that in here? We don't need all of it right now. So we're warming up the honey and water together. That's good. We're going to use the rest of it in the lemonade. We're warming up the honey and the water together so that the honey blends in really nicely. And then we'll use lots of ice in the final lemonade so that it's nice and cool. Now we're putting the honey. Let's take the lid off. And the honey, we're going to use about 2/3 of a cup of honey. Yes, you can pour it in. So we'll get a measuring cup here. We'll get this measuring cup. And so you have a 2/3 of a cup measuring cup. And so this is a 1 cup, so I'm going to measure pretty close to the top. But this is almost like, this is pretty, it's a bit of an estimate because it's really about how sweet you like your lemonade. So I'm going to tell Polly when she should stop. Yeah, that looks good. And now, Cash, do you want to help with scraping this into the pot? So here, there you go. You take that and you take this. We're going to scrape it into the water. Pour and scrape. Yep.
What do I do?
You can wipe it off on here. You can always keep cloths and towels around to clean yourself up as you go.
Lots of honey.
Delicious. And so then we'll put this on the stove to sort of warm up together, and we'll stir it together so that the honey isn't so thick in the cold lemonade. We want it to blend in the way a sugar would dissolve. We want the honey to dissolve too. So that's why we're going to put it on the stove for a couple
And it's
minutes.
totally fine if you don't have a spatula because you can just scrape it out with your spoon.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. This is a time when you don't really need a rubber spatula. You can just use a spoon to scrape it out.
And it really doesn't matter, like, if you have a spatula, but, like, it's not this kind. It's just a plain old spatula.
All right, let's get the last. Do you want to help getting the last of the honey out? Here, we'll get the last of it out because if you do have a spatula, you can get all of your honey out because it's such a tasty ingredient. We don't want any of it to go to waste. And now, why don't you mix this up a little bit, Polly? Great. And so while that warms on the stove, take care. You know what? I think probably a better tool than the spatula for this job is a spoon, so it doesn't spill out. That's okay. You can also use maple
Is
syrup.
that water hot?
No, it's cold actually, but we're going to warm it up. You can also use maple syrup. See, it's already blending up together with the water. If you want to use maple syrup for this recipe, then you'd have a lovely maple flavor in your lemonade. Let's mix it all together, and then we'll put it on the stove.
And you can also use sugar, but I think it's much better to have honey or maple syrup.
Yeah, I think they have more flavor. I agree with you,
And-
Cash. And let's get the seeds
This
out
is
of
what
here.
it looks like.
That's what it looks like. So it's already blending together. I'm going to pull out the seeds from our lemon juice, which is easy to
See how
do. You just
different
sort of
it looks
scoop them
now?
out.
The honey is blending in with the water.
So that's all of this beautiful lemon juice we juiced, and it's so strong and fresh. It tastes so much better than lemonade that you might have bought from a store before because it's made so fresh. And fresh lemon juice, when you juice it, it just tastes really, really wonderful. So we're going to get this on the stove now. like this, and our sauce is ready. So I'm going to put the sauce in a little dish, and we're going to get our pizza dough because it's probably risen, and I will get it all rolled out. Okay, so we are ready to roll out our pizza dough, top it with our sauce, and put it in our preheated oven. And so I also wanted to say before we keep going that you might have noticed that we don't have a lot of space in our kitchen. It's bite-sized. It's little. And so you can make these recipes even if you don't have very much room, and even if you don't have a lot of tools, and even if you don't have really many at all. It's still a wonderful thing to be able to cook with your family. So I just reset, as you can see, I took all our dishes and put them in the sink, and I'll wash them later, and we put all of the ingredients for the pizza on our table.
And you always have to put flour on here.
You do, and so that's good. That's a good amount of flour.
It's okay if your hand.
You can brush your hands off.
Hands or hand get dirty.
That's right. That's enough, I think, Polly, because we have plenty of flour. You can just brush your hands. You can go wash your hands. That's okay, too. So here's our pizza dough, and it has risen. And it has not risen very much, but it is bigger and softer, and it's going to be easier to roll out. Because when you let bread rest and pizza dough rest and rise a little bit, the gluten, which is the wheat protein in your dough, if you're using wheat flour, the gluten will go, and it will relax a little bit, and it will be easier to work with. Otherwise, otherwise it'll get all tight. If you don't let it rest, it gets a little bit tight. So the gluten actually does that. So we let it rest a little, and then it's easier to roll out. So let's pull this out of the bowl. Who wants to pull this out of the bowl with your finger? Whoa, it did it already. Oops. So now what we can do is, yeah, it's tired. Let's go to bed now.
We made a shape.
We made a shape. So we're going to get, we need more flour. Sprinkle a bit of flour on the dough, okay?
Sort of.
It does look like a brain because the dough is sort of all scrunched up. Great, so now we're going to roll out the dough, and it's easy to do, as you can see, because we let it rest.
Yep.
And if your rolling pin sticks to the dough a little bit, you can always sprinkle it with a little bit of flour, just like that.
So you see it's a little bit skinnier, and it's a lot skinnier and a lot bigger now.
That's exactly right.
Now we'll let Cash have a turn.
Well, isn't that wonderful? Nice turn taking, kids. I'm going to flip the dough so that, and then we'll get a little more flour on it, okay? And then Cash can have a turn. You roll yours out, my love. You're using your rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use any kind of bottle that looks like this. A wine bottle, an olive oil bottle, a soy sauce bottle. You can just take a bottle in your kitchen and use that instead. Or you can sometimes just pat it out with your fingers. That's another option. I'll show you that in just a minute.
Yeah, if you don't have a wine bottle.
That's right. Okay, Cash, this looks great. Look how big it is now. You guys can see how it's changed, hey?
And if some parts are thicker on sides, you can roll them out too, and it will be
just like that, exactly. So this is
or
wonderful.
You can just push the thin parts back together. You can make the thick parts more thin, or the thin parts more thick.
Exactly. So, Cash, I'm just going to pick this up and show everybody what you can do.
But I normally make the thick parts more thin.
Exactly. So you can pick up your dough and stretch it too. See, you can sort of hold it over your wrists, not like your fingers, because you can, but you have to have your wrists like this. Yep. So you can kind of walk your fists around under the dough, and it sort of stretches it out, just like that. Now the fancy pizza parlors, they throw it up in the air. We're not going to do that because then we might drop it on the floor. That's right. That's right.
They have lots.
But you guys are pretty good chefs. So see, we didn't even make any holes in it. That one almost hole, but it's okay. So here it is, and it's ready to go in the oven. We just have to put our toppings on it. So, presto, we're going to use this pan right here. So Cash, let's put some olive oil on this pan. Can we brush some olive oil on, buddy? Let's brush olive oil onto this metal pan. And that's so that the pizza will be super delicious when on the underside. And then let's brush a whole bunch all over the pan. I'm going to put this rolling pin over here if you don't need it anymore.
Like this?
That's right, exactly. We can even rub it with your fingers. So we're using this pan here. You could also
if you don't have a brush, you can just dip your fingers in and rub it around.
You can also use this kind of pan with holes in it. That's also okay. You can use a cookie sheet that is square or round. Okay, yep, let's give Polly a turn. And then we're going to brush olive oil all over the pizza dough itself. And here's a trick. If you have a rolling pin, that you can take your pizza dough so it won't tear. You take it and you gently put it over the pin to transfer it over to your pan like this. Here we go. Excuse me, Polly. We're going to lay it down like this. Just like that. We got a little holy bit there, but that's
But
okay.
then
We can kind of push it together gently.
Just
Yeah, so
get a
Polly, you
little
can
bit
brush.
of dough and then push that against it.
Exactly. So gently brush.
And it will be a bit smaller, but that's totally fine.
You can brush the olive oil all over the pizza crust. Exactly, it's totally fine. And putting olive oil all over the pizza crust.
You get it on your finger.
Putting olive oil on the crust means it's going to be rich and sort of crunchy tasting when you finish, which is a really nice touch. And let's be gentle. Make sure not to tear the dough. You were using a brush or your fingers. You want to make sure that the dough doesn't get torn.
No matter
so
what
gentle.
no matter what you're doing, you always have to be gentle.
There we go. Okay, I think it's done. Deborah, let's put a little bit more down here, and then we'll get our toppings on. So we have a few toppings. We have, of course, our sauce that we made. Look at this sauce. Here it is. It's ready to put on the pizza. So let's, here, Cash, use this one, and why don't we put a little spoonful on?
We always start with this.
Let's try to put it close to the, Cash, you want to put a spoonful on? And then smear it around with the spoon. And
I see a bit of onion on it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can
Yummy.
pull that out.
Yeah, the onion's still there because it cooked all down. This is still a little bit warm,
Remember,
so just
not
be careful.
Too quick.
Not too quick, exactly. Not right to the edge either, because we want a little bit of a crust at the edge, okay? We won't make like a crust. We will just put the dough, put the sauce, not quite to the edge.
What kind of cheese are we gonna put on top?
This is mozzarella cheese. Good question, Cash. We're using mozzarella cheese, and I've already grated a bunch of it. Using just a simple grater like this, or you can use a box
I thought we
grater.
were gonna use like giant pieces of it.
No, that's another kind of cheese you can use as like slices. But this is called, I just cut this open this morning, this is called pizza mozzarella. Although, you know what, Polly's already starting the mozzarella. I want to do one thing first, is that we're going to put, on half the pizza, we'll put some yellow peppers, okay? You can put anything you want on your pizza. You can put sliced mushrooms, you can put pepperoni. Today we'll just put a little bit.
Copy us.
That's right. I think you might have a yellow pepper with your ingredients today, but you don't have to use it. You can just put cheese. Unless, I don't know if we'll use all of that, Polly. That's probably good. And we'll scatter it over one half, and the other half will be just cheese. So you can grate that mozzarella. The graters can be sharp, so you want to get some help from an adult for the grating. And then you can sprinkle cheese all over
But
the whole
we're,
thing.
we're big kids, so we can do some grating.
If you're a big kid and you have some supervision in the kitchen, you have an adult with you, you can try your hand at grating.
But I think we
And
don't
make
need
sure
any extra
always,
cheese.
like if we have a baby, never let them get the grater.
Very important to keep sharp tools well away from very small children.
And I think it's ready.
I think it's ready to go in the oven. And when it's baking, we'll finish mixing up our lemonade. Look at that beautiful pizza you guys have made. And it's going to look even more amazing after it's gone in the oven. So.
And then we're going to eat it.
And into the oven goes our pizza. Here we go. So this is another task you can get your adult to help with. Put it right near the bottom of the oven. Right on the bottom, just like that. And close the door. And your oven is at 450 degrees. And so the pizza should take about 10 minutes, depending on how thinly you've rolled it.
Okay, so we're going to make the lemonade and then try it. With
Yes.
these cups.
The pizza's in the oven, so while the pizza is
But
cooking,
if
we're
you
gonna
have
make
these
lemonade.
cups like these, you should be careful not to drop them because they're made out of glass.
Yes, should be very
Solid
careful.
glass.
That's right. So this is our this is our honey and water mixture. So Cash, will you pour all of this into the jug? Take care, it's very hot, okay? Not very hot, but quite hot. So I'm gonna help you out. This is warm, so the honey and the water are blended together, so it's all nice and
Did we take out the seeds?
we did take out the seeds. I did take out the seeds with my hands. Oh, careful.
Now I'll put.
So this is a warm pot. I'm just gonna tuck it over
Was
to
there
the side.
ice in there?
Some ice, but we need a little bit more, I think. Polly's going to put all of her lemon juice in. Wait a minute. This is a precious resource because we just juiced 8 lemons. So you want to be quite careful that not a single drop of it spills onto the table, just so that we make sure we have as much lemon as possible. And it's really fresh and really delicious. Look at that. There we go. And see, if you do have some little tiny seeds in your lemon that you juiced, lemon juice, it'll probably just stay in the bowl. Let's twist this, or you can crack it like that. Very good. Put some more ice in there, kiddos. And we're going to add some more water. Because lemon juice is really quite strong, and so is the honey we put in. So we're going to add more water and more ice, and then we'll taste it. And then if it's too strong, you can still add more water and more ice. And if it's too weak, you can also always add some more honey or lemon, but it probably won't be too weak.
Weak.
Do you want to pour in the water, Polly? We'll have a little bit more water. And you have a recipe there, so it's 2 cups of water, 2/3 of a cup of honey, and the juice of 8 lemons. But because lemons can vary about how juicy they are, how big they are, it's still important to always taste.
And sometimes
Excellent.
it's hard getting the ice out. Like it was really hard getting this piece out, but it's totally fine.
That's fine, and Cash did a great job doing
As
it.
you can just get it
And
out.
I just like do.
You just sort of pull them out with your nails. Yeah. So I think that's probably good for ice. Why don't we try this lemonade? Oh, why don't we give it a stir first? Hang on.
Can I stir?
Yep. Let's stir it around to make sure all of the honey and water and lemon is all mixed
And
together
the moon is
beautifully.
back.
That's good. Okay, let's pour it out into our cups. Do you want to serve yourself, Polly? This is something you can get your grown-up to stand next to you to do to make sure that it's not too heavy for you. Very good. Would you like to pour your own lemonade, Cash? Here you
It's
go.
perfect.
I'm so glad. You have us try there, buddy boy? What do you think it tastes like, Polly?
Lemon and honey.
Yeah. Great. Is it cold enough? If it's not cold enough,
Yep.
you can add more ice.
It's cold enough?
Oh, that is so nice. So the pizza is ready. I'm going to take it out of the oven using great big oven mitts, and this is a job you can get your adult to do because the oven is really, really hot. Here we go. Look at the pizza. So the cheese has been beautifully browned. I'm going to put it right here. Carefully close the oven. I'm going to turn the oven off. And I'm going to slip the pizza off its pan using a spatula. So we slip the pizza, you can just put your spatula under, slip it off the pan onto a cutting board, and I'm going to cut it up and then let it cool for a few minutes before we try it. Like this. My baby's also ready for lunch. I can hear in the background. Just like that. And so then we'll try it in a couple minutes. So it's time to try our pizza, and it looks so good. It is cooled for a few minutes. Let's try it.
Really good.
Let's try it. I'm having one of the pizzas
You
with
don't
the peppers
have
on.
to hold up your plate.
That's true.
And this is the pizza.
Yeah.
Hers has pepper.
And the crust is pretty thin, which means it's nice and crispy on the outside, and it's still a little bit soft in the middle.
But
of the
if
crust.
you're doing this, making another video, making another episode and showing it to somebody, make sure to hold the cheese so it doesn't fall off.
So thanks so much for watching this episode 3 of Kids in the Kitchen with the Halifax Public Library. Shall we say bye? Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.
Thanks for
See you
coming
next
with
time.
us.
See you next time.
Thanks for cooking with us. Bye.
See you in the next